9 Golden Age stars with surprisingly low IQs. Hollywood's Golden Age gave us icons whose faces defined an era. Their names lit up marquees from coast to coast. Their elegance became the blueprint for American sophistication. But beneath those dazzling smiles and flawless performances lurked a truth the studios fought desperately to bury. The camera doesn't show IQ, an MGM executive once confided. Thank God for that. Behind the velvet curtains, studios didn't just test star quality, they tested intelligence. These confidential assessments, later revealed through leaked documents and insider testimonies, exposed a startling reality about Hollywood's brightest stars. Tonight, we're pulling back that curtain to reveal 9 beloved legends whose IQ scores would shock their millions of fans. And wait until you hear about number 6. Their score was absolutely remarkable. 1. Marilyn Monroe, the icon who needed 50 takes. Marilyn Monroe remains Hollywood's greatest legend. That breathy voice, that vulnerable beauty, that ineffable quality that transcends time. Behind it all was a woman who struggled to remember simple lines. Reported IQ 82 revealed an acting teacher who worked with her. She needed 40 takes for a single line sometimes, but when she got it right, magic happened. Billy Wilder famously complained about directing Monroe in Some Like It Hot. The line, "Where's the bourbon?" supposedly required over 50 attempts. She kept getting it wrong. Where's the whiskey? Where's the bottle? Where's the bonbon? Despite the simplicity. Her limitations manifested everywhere. Chronic lateness stemmed partly from difficulty understanding schedules. Complex scenes required extensive explanation. Directors learned to shoot her first in the day when she was freshest. Yet here's the paradox. Monroe's vulnerabilities became her superpower. That confusion, that fragility, that need for protection, it translated on screen as irresistible appeal. Audiences didn't want clever Marilyn, they wanted vulnerable Marilyn. And she delivered authenticity because she genuinely was vulnerable. Monroe had emotional intelligence off the charts, explained one film expert. She understood desire and vulnerability at a molecular level. That's why she's immortal, while smarter actresses are forgotten. Her beauty was obvious, but her genius was emotional. She felt things deeply and communicated those feelings through expression and body language in ways that transcended dialogue. When she looked at the camera, she connected with audiences' hearts, not their minds. The tragedy is that her mental limitations probably contributed to her personal struggles. The pressure of maintaining a glamorous image while dealing with basic comprehension challenges must have been exhausting. But her professional legacy remains untouchable. 2. Jane Mansfield, the fake genius who fooled America. Jane Mansfield claimed an IQ of 149. She told reporters about her violin skills and fluency in 5 languages. According to people who actually worked with her, it was Hollywood's most audacious lie. Claimed IQ 149, but insiders said 85, revealed a publicity worker. The marketing was brilliant, even if it was completely false. Directors said she couldn't follow simple directions. Mansfield's manufactured intelligence was strategic genius, just not her own. Someone realized that blonde bombshells were common, but a bombshell who quoted Plato? That was unique. So they built an entire fake persona. Photos were staged with philosophy books. Interviews were carefully scripted with intellectual references. Claims about linguistic abilities and musical training were promoted aggressively. And somehow, people believed it. Jane was smart enough to play smart, noted one co-star. That itself took a certain cleverness, even if the intelligence she claimed was fiction. On set, the truth emerged. Simple directions confused her. Dialogue meanings eluded her. The gap between public image and private reality was enormous. Yet the marketing worked.
Mansfield stood out in a crowded field precisely because of this fabricated intellectualism. The irony is rich. Creating a false persona of genius requires real strategic thinking. Whether Mansfield herself conceived it or simply went along, the approach demonstrated an understanding of branding that many smarter actresses never grasped.
3. Tony Curtis, 80 points in cheekbones, 10 in everything else. From Bernie Schwartz in the Bronx to Hollywood royalty, Tony Curtis transformed himself through sheer determination. But behind those legendary cheekbones was a mind that struggled with written material. Reported IQ 90, disclosed a Universal executive. One producer joked that Curtis was a 90, and 80 of those points were in his face. Curtis himself later admitted his difficulties. Reading overwhelmed him. Scripts seemed impossible. Early in his career, everything had to be broken down into digestible pieces. Simple sentences, basic concepts, clear motivations. But here's what IQ tests don't measure. Curtis had extraordinary visual intelligence. He understood instinctively how to use his face and body on camera. That skill, combined with a relentless work ethic, eventually made him a serious actor. Early Curtis couldn't understand a script, remembered one supervisor. Late Curtis was getting Oscar nominations. That's growth that transcends any test score. By the time he made the defiant ones, Curtis had developed emotional intelligence that compensated for his cognitive limitations. He felt his way through performances, relying on instinct rather than intellectual analysis. His story proves that starting points don't determine destinations. Whatever his limitations, Curtis had the drive to overcome them and the natural talent to make the journey worthwhile.
4. Mamie Van Doren, the blonde who couldn't tell left from right. Mamie Van Doren exploded onto screens in the 1950s, all curves and platinum hair. Behind that bombshell exterior was a mind that purportedly couldn't grasp the most basic film terminology. Reported IQ 84, said an assistant director. She once asked if we filmed in real color or pretend color. Another time, she couldn't understand the difference between left and camera left. Directors just pointed instead. The studios never tried to make Van Doren more than she was. They cast her in roles that required looking sensational and delivering minimal dialogue. She was decoration, spectacle, fantasy, and the approach worked perfectly. Lighting technicians developed workarounds. Instead of explaining technical concepts that would only confuse her, they physically guided her to marks. Show, don't tell became the rule for every Van Doren production. Mamie lit up the screen and dimmed every conversation, one crew member joked. But nobody paid to hear her discuss philosophy. Her career was deliberately narrow. The same types of roles, the same shallow characters, the same emphasis on physical appeal over any other quality. It was repetitive, but it was sustainable. Van Doren knew her lane and stayed in it. The fascinating part is how self-aware the system was. Everyone involved understood exactly what they were working with and optimized accordingly. There was no pretense, no delusion, just pragmatic filmmaking that played to obvious strengths.
5. Tab Hunter, teaching Shakespeare to a golden retriever. Tab Hunter was the 1950s personified, blonde, wholesome, athletic, and, according to his acting coach, nearly impossible to teach. Reported IQ 87, the coach revealed. We fed him lines syllable by syllable. It was like training a very attractive dog to perform tricks. Warner Brothers developed an entire system around Hunter's limitations. Scripts were simplified. Dialogue was broken into manageable chunks. Directors learned to film his scenes in extremely short takes, sometimes just 1 or 2 lines at a time, then assemble them in editing. The results took longer to achieve, But they worked. Hunter's natural charm and all-American looks translated beautifully on screen, even if getting him there required extraordinary patience and technical innovation. One co-star remembered, "Tab was sweet, earnest, and completely lost, but teenage girls didn't care about his IQ. They cared about his smile, and that smile was worth millions." What makes Hunter's story compelling is his later honesty. In his autobiography, he openly discussed his struggles with reading and comprehension. That vulnerability gave credibility to earlier reports while showing his determination to succeed despite his limitations. Hunter worked 3 times harder than most actors because everything was 3 times harder for him, noted one Hollywood historian. That's not measured on IQ tests, but it's just as valuable.
6. Dorothy Lamour. Beauty in a sarong, confusion everywhere else. Dorothy Lamour's exotic appeal made her a star, but Paramount's careful management kept her one. Behind that glamorous facade was a woman who reportedly struggled with unscripted moments. Reported IQ 89, noted a Paramount executive. Beautiful and elegant, but her screen test had no dialogue. The studio was terrified of what might happen if she spoke without preparation. Lamour's career was a masterclass in controlled presentation. Every interview was rehearsed. Every public appearance was scripted. Every role was carefully designed to showcase her looks while minimizing mental demands. The Road to pictures were perfect for her. Bob Hope and Bing Crosby could improvise brilliantly, carrying the comedy while Lamour stood there looking stunning and delivering her carefully memorized lines. Everyone knew their role. Dorothy had one job: look beautiful and sing pleasantly, remembered one makeup artist. Paramount made sure that's all she ever had to do. What's remarkable is how long the system worked. Lamour maintained a successful career for decades, not despite her limitations, but because the studio had perfected the art of managing them. She never had to be more than she was, and what she was happened to be exactly what audiences wanted. When television came along, Lamour struggled. Live performances exposed what careful film editing had hidden. But by then, she'd already secured her legacy.
7. Johnny Weissmuller, the genius of playing dumb. 5 Olympic gold medals, Tarzan, an iconic yell. Johnny Weissmuller became immortal by playing a character who perfectly matched his own mental capacity. Reported IQ 78, revealed an MGM executive with access to confidential files. Stuck to one-word lines because 2-word sentences confused him. Here's where it gets interesting. Weissmuller's casting was accidental genius. The studios weren't trying to work around his limitations. They were trying to find someone who wouldn't have to act at all. They needed a man raised by apes, and they found someone who genuinely communicated on that level. Me Tarzan, you Jane wasn't written for him. It was the only line he could reliably deliver. But it became cinema history because it felt authentic. Weissmuller wasn't performing simplicity, he was being himself, and audiences sensed that truth. Script supervisors learned quickly. Physical direction worked, verbal explanation didn't. Want him to fight? Show him the moves. Want him to express emotion? Point to your face and demonstrate. Complex motivation? Just tell him bad guy or good guy. Johnny made millions playing himself, one director laughed. The jungle setting wasn't atmosphere, it was necessity. Where else could a man with his limitations become a hero? The brilliance of the Tarzan franchise was that it turned disability into superpower. Tarzan's inability to speak properly wasn't a character choice, it was Weissmuller's reality. His physical problem-solving wasn't acting technique, it was literally how he approached life.
8. Esther Williams. Gorgeous in water, lost on land. Championship swimming made Esther Williams a star, but it was MGM's genius that kept her one.
They built an entire genre, the water musical, around a woman who reportedly couldn't grasp basic dialogue. Reported IQ, 83, an MGM choreographer confessed. We wrote her lines in pool chalk on the bottom of the tank. Even then, she'd surface and ask what they meant. Williams's limitation became MGM's blueprint for innovation. Why force her into conventional roles when they could create something entirely new? The studio invented elaborate water ballets that showcased her athleticism while eliminating the need for complex acting. One costume designer remembered her fondly. Esther was living proof that intelligence comes in many forms. She couldn't follow a script, but put her in water and she became poetry. MGM was smart enough to let her swim. The formula was brilliant. Minimize dialogue, maximize spectacle. Let her smile, look beautiful, and perform physical feats that left audiences breathless. Her movies made millions precisely because they played only to her strengths. Directors developed an entire visual language for her. Hand signals replaced verbal direction. Choreography was taught through repetition, not explanation. Scripts were structured so her few speaking scenes came early in the day when she was freshest and most focused. Williams proved that Hollywood doesn't need intellectuals. It needs people who can do one thing extraordinarily well. She could do that one thing better than anyone in history.
9. Buster Crabbe, the hero who couldn't understand his own lines. Olympic gold transformed Buster Crabbe into Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, and Tarzan. His chiseled physique made him the perfect action hero. But behind that heroic jaw was a mind that struggled with the simplest concepts. Reported IQ, 81, a Universal casting director revealed decades later. 3 takes just to understand the word spaceship. We had coaches, but some things you just can't teach. Directors quickly learned to work around him. Complex dialogue? Forget it. Character motivation? Impossible. Instead, they reduced everything to physical cues. Point here, look scared, run there. The serials didn't need Shakespeare. They needed someone who looked good in a cape. Flash Gordon worked because those serials were beautifully stupid, one film historian explained. They needed a handsome face who could throw a punch and look heroic. Crabbe delivered exactly that and nothing more. What's fascinating is how perfectly his limitations aligned with what audiences wanted. Nobody went to Flash Gordon for philosophical discourse. They wanted adventure, spectacle, and a hero who embodied pure physical courage. Crabbe's inability to process complex ideas actually made his performances more authentic. He wasn't acting simple, he was simple. The special effects crew learned to communicate entirely through demonstration. Show him the action, and he'd replicate it perfectly. Try to explain it verbally, and you'd lose an hour. We treated him like a really attractive puppet, and honestly, it worked beautifully.
Beyond the numbers, redefining intelligence. These 9 stars share a common thread. IQ scores well below average, yet careers that reach stratospheric heights. Their success forces us to reconsider how we measure human capability. Hollywood understood something psychology is only now accepting. Intelligence is multidimensional. Monroe's emotional wisdom, Weissmuller's physical expressiveness, Williams' aquatic grace. These are legitimate forms of intelligence that IQ tests completely miss. The studio system's genius was recognizing specific talents and building entire careers around them. They didn't expect Williams to do Shakespeare. They created water musicals. They didn't force Weissmuller into dialogue-heavy roles. They gave him Tarzan. These stars remind us that IQ is one measure among many, reflected one neuropsychologist. Human ability manifests in countless ways. Some of the most valuable are completely invisible to standardized testing. For modern audiences, these stories offer deeper understanding of old Hollywood. Behind the glamour was sophisticated talent management that included working around cognitive limitations. These performers weren't just beautiful faces. They were complex individuals whose struggles were hidden behind carefully constructed images. Did Hollywood exploit vulnerable people? Or did it create unprecedented opportunities for those who might have struggled elsewhere? It's complicated, noted an entertainment ethics scholar. These performers made fortunes and achieved fame that would have been impossible in other fields. But they also faced ridicule, manipulation, and pressure they may not have fully understood. Monroe's substance abuse and Hunter's anxiety both stemmed partly from the strain of pretending to be more capable than they were. The psychological cost of constant pretense was enormous. Yet most of these stars seemed to value their careers. Tony Curtis expressed gratitude for opportunities that let him transcend his limitations. Even those who acknowledged struggles rarely regretted their Hollywood journey. We shouldn't view them as pure victims or pure beneficiaries, cautioned one film scholar. They lived richer lives than would have been available outside Hollywood, despite real challenges. That complexity deserves recognition. These stories invite reflection on how we value different abilities. How might society better nurture diverse talents while providing appropriate support? How can we create opportunities without demanding exhausting pretense? Perhaps the most valuable lesson is that human worth isn't determined by IQ, concluded one expert. These achievements remind us that extraordinary contributions come from unexpected places. We've explored the surprising cognitive limitations behind Hollywood's most iconic faces. From Crabbe's verbal struggles to Monroe's comprehension challenges, these performers achieved extraordinary success despite obstacles that would have derailed careers in almost any other field. Their stories reveal the studio system's manipulative genius, creating roles and entire genres to showcase specific talents while concealing limitations. They also demonstrate remarkable resilience from performers who found ways to excel despite significant cognitive constraints. These 9 stars challenge our understanding of intelligence and success. They prove that regular IQ tests capture only a fraction of human capability. Monroe's intuitive grasp of vulnerability, Weissmuller's wordless physical poetry, Williams' liquid grace, these weren't consolations for low scores. They were powerful forms of intelligence in their own right. What makes these stories compelling is how these performers leveraged alternative intelligences to reach heights that seemed impossible given their limitations. Their success reminds us that human potential exceeds narrow measures and manifests in diverse, surprising ways. Most importantly, their stories invite us to reconsider how we judge talent today. How many people are overlooked because they don't fit traditional measures? How many unique gifts go unrecognized because we're too focused on standardized scores? The Golden Age studios, despite their flaws, understood something profound. Find what someone does brilliantly, build around it, and you might create a legend. That lesson remains relevant today. If you found these revelations fascinating, smash that like button. It genuinely helps us create more deep dives into Hollywood's hidden history. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our weekly explorations of the truth behind the myths. Drop a comment below. Which star surprised you most? Do you think the studios exploited these performers or gave them opportunities they couldn't have found elsewhere? And here's the real question. Could these stars succeed in today's Hollywood, or has the industry changed too fundamentally? Next week, we're revealing 7 Golden Age performers who overcame extraordinary physical disabilities to become legends. Stars whose visible challenges were hidden through elaborate camera tricks and studio deception. You won't believe the techniques they used. Click that notification bell now so you don't miss it. Remember, in Hollywood's Golden Age, as today, success often depends less on conventional intelligence than on that unique combination of qualities that makes each person extraordinary. Sometimes the brightest stars shine not because of their IQ, but in spite of it. Thanks for watching. Now go out there and find what makes you extraordinary.